Sir, stop right there.
Hands where I can see him.
Identify yourself.
Now.
Base alarm's active. He's not on the duty roster.
Colonel, stop walking.
You've made your perimeter. Is that enough guns?
Keep your hands visible. State your name.
Colonel Marcus Corbin.
Corbin?
Not on the log. Try again.
I wouldn't be on your log.
Captain Rhodes closing in. What's the...
A silent alarm triggered inside the base command room. Guards rushed toward the barracks exit with rifles raised and body cams recording. A lone figure stepped into the night air, wearing an army uniform with polished collar brass. His rank board showed Eagle insignia. His stride looked confident, but his name did not match the shift list. The guards issued commands. The man ignored every order and kept walking toward the motor pool. Radio traffic spiked. Supervisors responded. No one knew who he was or why he moved with calm purpose. Vehicles blocked the road. Flashlights followed his steps. Soldiers formed a perimeter. The unknown officer stopped, turned around, and smiled. The truth hit harder than any weapon. The base stayed locked behind fencing, guard shacks, and rows of cameras. Floodlights covered the walkways. Gravel crunched under boots. Radios clicked with short status checks. Routine nights rarely shifted. Soldiers moved in and out of the barracks with quiet discipline. Rooms stayed lit by soft bulbs and laptop screens. Hallways echoed with light footsteps and locker doors. Nothing drew concern until the silent alarm triggered. Private Lawson sat inside the command room, watching movement across the camera grid. A dark figure stepped out of the barracks and headed toward the motor pool. Lawson tapped the keyboard and zoomed in. The uniform matched standard issue. The rank board showed Colonel. The figure kept a steady pace. No sign of rush, no sign of distress. Lawson cross-checked the personnel list for the night. No colonel remained on base past 2200 hours. That discrepancy sparked the alarm. He triggered a silent alert. Red markers flashed across screens. Security teams stood from chairs. Supervisors entered the hallway. Radio orders flowed across channels. Staff Sergeant Cole reached the barracks entrance with 4 guards. Tension filled their faces as they spotted the unknown officer walking across the open ground. The perimeter towers tracked him with spotlights. Guards yelled commands. The figure kept moving. Cole ordered rifles at low ready. All movement froze except the unknown officer. His steps stayed calm. He approached the fenced gate near the motor pool. The gate remained locked. No authorization code entered the keypad. Cole stepped forward with a commanding voice and demanded identification. No response. The officer reached into a pocket. Guards raised weapons. The body cams caught every shift in posture. The officer pulled out a phone, tapped the screen, and lifted it toward a camera. The screen displayed a digital credential with a name, clearance level, and classification heading. Cole viewed the screen from several feet away. The details did not match any records stored in the security system. Cole ordered the officer to turn around and place both hands on his head. Again, no response. The officer lowered the phone and continued walking. Radio traffic increased. Military police sprinted from the main building. Patrol vehicles moved across the lot. The tension spread faster than the officer's pace. Lieutenant Garza arrived with a K-9 unit. She stood beside Cole and studied the officer's uniform. She noted crisp stitching, fresh insignia, polished boots, and a spotless rucksack. Too spotless. A real senior officer walking across loose gravel would pick up dust or scuffs. The uniform looked fresh from packaging. Garza whispered to Cole that something felt wrong. They followed the officer. He reached the corner of the motor pool and stopped. Engines sat silent under metal roofing. Fuel drums lined the wall. The officer turned toward the guards. He offered no identification. He offered no rank confirmation. His silence multiplied the threat. Garza motioned to her team. 2 guards flanked the officer and moved with slow steps. Cole approached head-on with an open hand and firm voice. The officer raised both arms and formed a slow clap, 1 tap at a time. The sound cut across the night. No smile, no agitation, only a cold stare. Garza gave 1 more demand for compliance. The officer tilted his head, then reached toward his waist. Every rifle locked into firing position. The body cams showed fingers tighten on triggers. The officer removed a folded page from his cargo pocket and held it out. Cole approached with balanced steps. He grabbed the page and stepped back. Garza shined her flashlight. The page contained a list of vehicle maintenance crews scheduled for next morning inspection. Names, ID numbers, and repair tasks. Nothing classified. Nothing dangerous. But the question grew larger. How did an unknown man walk through barracks access points with a uniform and paperwork that pulled from base schedules? Garza ordered restraints. 2 guards moved in and secured the officer's wrists. The officer offered no resistance. He lowered his head and exhaled once. The body cams captured his face in clear detail. Mid-50s, clean shave. Fresh haircut. Well-built frame. He looked like someone who spent decades in service. Yet his name did not appear in the database. Military police escorted him to the holding room near the main office. They seated him in a metal chair with restraints attached to a floor mount. A camera recorded from the ceiling. The officer stared at the floor with blank expression. Garza stood on the other side of the table and reviewed his digital credential. The QR code linked to a dead server. The barcode scanned blank. Cole entered with the base duty officer, Captain Harlow. Harlow asked the man for name, rank, and unit. No response. The man lifted his head and stared. His eyes twitched once. He leaned back in the chair and studied the ceiling camera. Then he smiled. Harlow leaned in and stated the seriousness of the intrusion. Unauthorized presence inside barracks remained classified as a breach. The man looked straight ahead and spoke for the first time. He said the base failed a security audit. He said soldiers responded late. He said the watch commander followed slow protocol. He said the test exposed system weakness. His voice stayed steady. Harlow froze. Garza stiffened. Cole blinked in disbelief. The man continued, stating that he worked for a defense inspectorate office that performed surprise audits. He claimed the base missed multiple checkpoints. He said his silence and lack of ID checks proved a gap. Harlow asked for proof of employment. The man gave a numerical code and instructed them to call a specific number on a secure line. Garza wrote it down and rushed to the comm room. The duty communications sergeant patched the number through military channels. A light blinked. A voice answered. Garza explained the situation. Silence filled the line for several seconds. Then the voice told her to release the caller from restraints and provide a command room escort. Garza returned to the holding room with confusion. She relayed the instruction. Harlow hesitated. He requested confirmation through another channel. He received the same instruction. Release the officer. Provide escort. No charges. No disciplinary action against him. Harlow ordered the restraints removed. The man stood up, rolled his shoulders, and stretched. He thanked them for professional treatment and asked for a ride to the command office. Cole escorted him under close watch. Every guard remained alert. The officer walked with controlled posture. Inside the command office, Colonel Barrett waited behind a desk. Barrett held a stack of papers, each page containing sealed clearances. The unknown officer provided a small envelope. Barrett opened it and examined the clearance card inside. The card matched Defense Inspectorate protocols. Barrett checked the signature, the seal, the barcode, and the embedded microchip. All authentic. Barrett dismissed the guards and closed the door. The officer explained that the base had been selected for a security evaluation. The goal was simple. Identify weaknesses, find gaps, expose flaws before enemies found them first. He walked the grounds with open access because he entered through the main gate during a shift change. No one challenged him. No one verified credentials. The body cams captured each failure. When the officer stepped outside the barracks, an alert finally triggered. That was the only correct response during the entire evaluation. Everything else failed protocol. Barrett wrote notes with tight handwriting. His face hardened at each failure. He demanded a record of every movement the man made. The officer described his path through the barracks, supply hallway, and dining facility exit. At no point did anyone check ID or question his purpose. He spoke of unlocked doors and unattended access points. Barrett called the watch commander, who hurried in with nervous steps. The officer outlined each security breach. Barrett asked the officer for a time window before final report submission. The officer gave a deadline of 48 hours. Barrett nodded and promised immediate corrective action. The guard teams escorted the officer outside and toward a waiting vehicle. The man entered the back seat, closed the door, and left with silent authority. The base gate opened and the car disappeared into the road beyond the checkpoint. Barrett called every officer to the briefing room. Tables filled with frustrated faces. Barrett stood in front and spoke with tight tone. He laid out failures in exact order. He demanded new procedures, ID scanners at every entrance, alarm triggers on every door, immediate challenges to unknown personnel, full retraining for guard teams. No debate. Cole sat near the wall, arms crossed, processing each detail. He remembered the officer's smile. A test of discipline, a test of awareness. The base earned a failing score. Garza felt anger rise in her chest, not at the officer, at the fact that he slipped past trained professionals without breaking a door or hacking a system. Complacency hurt more than any attack. Harlow assigned every supervisor to rewrite access protocols. He ordered guards to challenge every uniform regardless of rank. Badges in sight, identity verified, clearance confirmed. No exceptions. During the next hours, teams reviewed camera footage of the officer's path. They paused at points where soldiers walked past him without greeting or questioning his presence. Barrett shook his head each time. Mid-shift, Garza stepped outside for air. Cole joined her. She stared across the motor pool. Floodlights illuminated empty space. She said the test embarrassed the base. Cole nodded. He understood. Confidence replaced caution. Routine replaced vigilance. The test revealed cracks. The next day, Barrett held private talks with key personnel. Harlow talked with Garza and Cole. He said the officer wanted a written report describing their response at the barracks exit. Their response met standards. They reacted fast. They followed procedure. Their action prevented a total failure rating. Night fell again. Training intensified. Guards watched the gate with sharp focus. Visitors received heavy screening. Access lists updated every hour. Devices tracked each entry. 3 days later, the Defense Inspectorate sent a report. It listed every failure, time-stamped and documented with bodycam footage. It praised Cole and Garza for asserting control once the alarm triggered. It demanded immediate correction of guard rotation procedures, access logging, and badge verification. Barrett posted the report in the training hall. Officers studied it line by line. No one wanted a repeat. Cole finished his shift and walked past the motor pool. The gravel crunched under his boots. He stopped at the spot where the unknown officer stood alone that night. Quiet space, empty air, but knowledge filled it now. That night the base returned to steady rhythm. Radios clicked. Floodlights glowed. Guard shacks buzzed with disciplined movement. The unknown officer never returned. 2 weeks passed. The base moved under new orders with strict structure. Badge checks tightened. Doors stayed locked. Schedules changed. Command staff pushed discipline into every corner. Soldiers lined up outside the training hall every morning for security briefings. Instructors reviewed clearance cards, entry logs, and bodycam footage from the night of the test. Staff Sergeant Cole stood at the front of a formation near the fence line during shift change. Guards inspected gear, checked weapon status, and signed accountability sheets. No one walked past a checkpoint without showing identification. New scanners sat on tables near the gate. They linked to the personnel database in real time. When a card scanned, the gate arm moved. When a card failed, the alarm sounded. Private Lawson watched the screens inside the command room. He updated spreadsheets, logged patrol routes, and monitored cameras across the barracks. His nerves still showed from the night the unknown officer walked across the gravel. He wanted to fix his reputation. He wanted the base to run with precision. Cole walked through the motor pool with Garza. Both carried clipboards with task lists. They checked vehicles for sensitive equipment. They checked lockboxes, fuel logs, and repair status sheets. Crew leaders signed forms under bright lamps. Every vehicle held secure keys inside coded racks. No tool sat unattended. Garza pointed to a storage door left open a few inches. She tapped the latch and shook her head. Cole wrote a violation on the log and summoned the motor pool supervisor. The supervisor rushed across the bay and apologized. He secured the door, locked it, and entered his ID into the audit tablet. New rules rejected excuses. Every lapse entered the report. Across the base, Barrett worked inside his office with stacks of paperwork. The Defense Inspectorate report weighed on his desk like a heavy stone. Pages detailed each failure in plain text. Barrett knew the base stood one more test away from large consequences. He prepared for outside inspection. He called the regional command office and requested training support. Later that evening, Barrett contacted Harlow and assigned him to lead a full simulation. Harlow reviewed the plan and nodded. The simulation involved false alerts, unknown vehicles, and disguised entry attempts. Cole and Garza formed the response team. They would not know the exact time of the drill. Rumors spread across the barracks. Recruits whispered about a second test. Some felt nervous. Others felt confident. Garza warned her team to ignore gossip and stay sharp. 3 days later, the drill started without warning. At 01:30 hours, Lawson noticed a blip on a security camera near the rear gate. A pickup truck stopped beside a drainage ditch. 2 figures jumped out and moved toward the fence line. Lawson called it in and alerted patrol units. Cole and Garza responded with speed. Vehicles roared across gravel and stopped near the ditch. Guards moved into position. Floodlights snapped on and covered the area in harsh light. The figures froze. Cole ordered them to stop and drop to their knees. Both complied. They wore masks and held wire cutters. Cole ordered the guards to secure them. He contacted Lawson and asked for gate logs. Lawson scanned the system and confirmed no authorized entry near the ditch. Garza searched the pickup truck and found empty duffel bags and a printed map of the base. Cole placed both intruders in cuffs and loaded them into a patrol vehicle. They drove to the holding room. The entire drill ended in 6 minutes. Commanders watched the footage and logged the time. Barrett felt relief. The simulation proved progress. Still, he ordered a second phase of the drill without telling anyone except senior staff. At 04:50 hours, a civilian car approached the main gate. The driver wore an old contractor badge. The guards scanned it and heard a soft beep. Red light. The guards stopped the vehicle and refused entry. The driver argued. The guard stood firm. The driver tried to push past with loud threats. The guard held his ground and called military police. Cole and Garza arrived. The driver surrendered. Barrett reviewed both drills and noted improvement. He sent a memo to the command office. The memo stated that the base corrected previous failures. The Defense Inspectorate received the memo and scheduled a final review. Barrett marked the calendar with a red stripe. 2 weeks later, a black SUV arrived at the gate during daylight hours. The driver wore a standard uniform and held a clearance card with Defense Inspectorate markings. Guards checked the card with scanners. The system verified the card with a green signal and displayed a photo that matched the driver. The gate arm lifted. The SUV moved inside. The officer stepped out of the SUV and walked toward the command building. Cole and Garza escorted him. No one took chances now. The officer introduced himself and asked for a tour. Barrett offered a firm handshake and led the way. The officer checked the barracks first. He walked through hallways and inspected door locks. He checked storage closets, exit doors, and code readers. Soldiers stood at attention. Equipment stayed secured. The officer wrote notes on a tablet. Next, he visited the motor pool. He walked through the bay and inspected the key racks. Every key sat in a locked slot. He checked repair logs and scanned serial numbers on fuel containers. The motor pool supervisor stood close and offered answers when asked. Then the officer visited the command room. Lawson sat at the console with steady posture. He switched monitors, scanned cameras, and checked gate logs. The officer asked for a playback of the drill near the ditch. Lawson opened the file without delay. The officer nodded once. They moved to the shooting range. Weapon lockers stayed sealed. Garza opened one locker and displayed the signing sheet. Every rifle on that list carried a signature and timestamp. The officer studied the sheet for several seconds and closed the locker. Hours passed. The officer toured the entire base with relentless detail. He took no breaks. He reviewed training worksheets and interviewed guard teams. He asked Cole to describe the night of the silent alarm. Cole recalled the details and spoke without pause. The officer wrote each detail in his tablet. Finally, the officer returned to the command office and sat across from Barrett. He read his notes and remained silent for a moment that felt longer than a full minute. Then he stated that the base passed the inspection. Barrett exhaled for the first time in hours. The officer praised the improvement. He said the base showed discipline and fast adaptation. He signed a clearance form and handed Barrett a sealed envelope for the regional command office. Barrett thanked him and offered to walk him to the gate. The officer declined and said he had other bases to visit. He left the building, entered the SUV, and drove toward the gate. Guards stopped the vehicle, checked the clearance card one more time, and opened the gate. The SUV rolled through the exit. Dust lifted behind the tires. After the vehicle disappeared, Barrett called every unit to the briefing room. Soldiers filled chairs and stood along the walls. Barrett announced that the base passed the inspection. Applause filled the room with force. Faces lit with pride. Garza allowed a faint smile. Cole nodded once with quiet satisfaction. Barrett ordered continued training. He said success meant nothing without consistency. The room agreed with a firm response. The next day, routine returned. Patrol shifts rolled forward. Drills stayed active. Gate checks continued with strict rules. Soldiers carried new confidence. Their work had value now. They protected each other and the base with focus. The motor pool supervisor installed new lock racks. The dining facility placed badge scanners at every entrance. The barracks installed door alarms that logged every open and close. Nothing slipped past unnoticed. Lawson felt relief wash through him. The inspection removed the weight from his shoulders. He performed his duties without nerves. He wanted no more failures on his watch. Garza walked across the fence line during sunset. She stopped near the ditch and kicked a small pebble. The spot reminded her of the simulation. The gravel sank under her boot. She turned and walked toward the barracks. Confidence guided her stride. Cole finished paperwork inside the briefing room. He filled line after line with timestamps and patrol logs. He signed the reports and handed them to Harlow. Harlow checked them and filed them without comment. Later that night, Cole stepped outside and walked across the open courtyard. Floodlights brightened the concrete. He heard distant voices from the track. Soldiers ran laps under cold air. Their footsteps hit pavement in steady rhythm. Cole sat on a bench and watched them circle the track. No conversation. No laughter. Only discipline. He studied the barracks windows. Every room held a soldier who depended on strong security. The test officer exposed weakness. Now the base stood stronger. Hours passed without incident. Radios stayed quiet. Patrol routes finished without trouble. Cole walked to the motor pool and checked fuel logs again. Numbers matched. Keys secured. No loose items. He locked the door and kept walking. The night shift ended before dawn. Cole returned to his quarters, removed his boots, and stretched. His mind stayed clear. He closed his eyes and slept without tension. The base moved forward. The drill ended. The threat exposed itself as training. But the story had not finished. A new issue waited beyond the fence line. The test left one trace that no one noticed yet. 2 days after the inspection ended, the base slipped back into steady rhythm. Soldiers trained on the range, mechanics checked engines, and watch teams cycled through posts without delay. The command office stored the inspection files and locked them behind password-sealed drives. Barrett felt satisfied. The officers felt proud. Cole and Garza took the night patrol rotation with strong confidence. The quiet did not last. At 15 hours, Lawson saw a small flicker on camera 12. A shadow moved near the north fence line. The movement lasted 1 second. Lawson rewound the footage. Nothing visible. He checked the infrared view. Nothing again. Lawson forced a slow breath. His mind remembered the first test. He refused a second mistake. He marked the time in the report log and called the patrol unit. Garza answered the radio. She drove to the fence line with Cole in the passenger seat. They stepped out and swept flashlights across the ground. The wind blew dust across the gravel. The fence remained intact. No broken wire. No boot prints. Cole crouched low and checked the metal support poles. He saw a small scrape on the paint. fresh. Silver steel peeked through where the paint chipped away. Garza ran her glove across it and frowned. Cole examined the ground again. Tire marks pressed into the dirt road beside the fence, not from military vehicles. Civilian tread. Fresh grooves. 2 tracks curved away from the fence and disappeared down a maintenance trail. Garza radioed Lawson and asked for camera playback from 30 minutes earlier. Lawson rewound and slowed the footage. Half an hour back, a dark shape crept along the tree line. Low profile. 4 wheels. No headlights. The vehicle stopped near the fence and shut off. The camera caught faint movement near the gate post. Shadows bent forward. Someone worked the fence. Then the footage cut out for 5 seconds. When the camera returned, the vehicle rolled away. Lawson's pulse hit his throat. Cameras no longer glitched. Every device updated after the inspection. A missing 5-second block meant interference. Cole followed the tire tracks with Garza. The wind kicked loose dirt across their boots. The tracks turned left along a narrow trail surrounded by brush. They walked with rifles low. Their body cams recorded each step. The trail ended near a shallow ditch with dried mud at the bottom. The tracks vanished across the paved road outside the installation. They crossed the access point and stepped toward the outer lot. A faint chemical smell lingered in the air. Garza crouched and pressed 2 fingers into the pavement. A thin line of oil streaked across the road. She held her hand close to her nose. Fresh engine oil with solvent mixed in. Cole checked the ditch again. He saw a small object half buried in the dirt. He reached down and pulled out a piece of rubber. Not from a tire. From a door seal. Black, narrow, and cut clean. It looked new. They returned to the fence and found a second clue. Near the scraped pole, a tiny bead of melted plastic clung to the metal. Someone tried to soften the fence alarm wiring with a heat tool. But the wiring held. Garza called Harlow. She explained the findings in short, steady phrases. Harlow ordered them to lock the area, preserve evidence, and bring samples back to the command room. Cole bagged the rubber strip. Garza took pictures of the tracks. They returned to the patrol truck and drove toward the main building. Inside the command room, Harlow studied the evidence on the table. Barrett joined them minutes later. Lawson brought the footage and displayed it across the main screen. Barrett watched the interference flash. 5 seconds gone. He tightened his jaw. Barrett ordered a full external perimeter sweep. Patrol vehicles rolled out. K-9 units followed. Soldiers searched drainage pipes, culverts, and service roads. Floodlights swept across fields. Nothing else appeared. The intruder left no more tracks. Barrett instructed Garza to inspect the cameras along the fence line. She walked the perimeter and checked each device. She found a small residue on the casing near camera 12. Chemical smell. Slight discoloration. A spray used to distort infrared sensors. Not strong enough to blind the camera. Enough to cause brief interference. Back in the command room, Barrett demanded every guard review footage from the past week. Lawson sifted through each file. Nothing unusual. No repeats of the interference. Cole asked to review footage from the inspection day. Lawson pulled the timestamps. That day, when the test officer left the base, camera 12 flickered once. Not a full cut. A brief haze across the screen. Lawson froze the frame. He zoomed in. A faint glint appeared near the fence. Something small and reflective. Barrett leaned close. Garza inspected the frozen frame. She saw a circular object lodged behind the fence post. Not part of the base structure. Smooth metal, half the size of a quarter. Lawson checked later footage. The object stayed there every day. No one noticed until now. Cole led a team to the fence and located the object. It stuck to the metal pole with thin adhesive. A microsensor almost invisible in the dark. No blinking light, no wires. A small disc, the shape of a coin. Cole sealed it in an evidence bag and brought it back. Barrett contacted the regional command office. He requested a technical analysis. Command told him to ship the device to their cyber unit. They sent the device out that afternoon. The investigation continued. 2 days later, the cyber unit delivered results. The disc recorded wireless signals and tagged personnel movement. It logged timestamps and transmitted location data through short bursts. The battery lasted months. It served as a tracking beacon. Someone studied the base pattern even after the inspection ended. Barrett grew silent. The first test officer entered with open clearance. The second intruder came in the dark. One tested the inside. One tested the outside. The base attracted attention from more than inspectors. Barrett called an emergency meeting. Garza, Cole, Harlow, Lawson, and the motor pool supervisor filled the room. Barrett explained the findings. Someone planted a tracking beacon on the fence during or after the first test. The intruder returned 2 nights ago, approached the same area, and tried to breach the fence again. Garza asked for expanded patrol near the tree line. Barrett approved. Harlow suggested infrared perimeter drones. Barrett approved again. Cole asked for covert stakeouts near the fence. Barrett sent him and Garza to lead that operation. The next night, Cole and Garza parked a black truck near the maintenance trail. They shut off headlights and waited in silence. Midnight passed. Air cooled and wind settled. An hour slipped by. Nothing moved. Then a faint engine hum drifted across the distance. A single headlight flickered. A motorcycle slowed near the brush line, turning off before the road bent. Cole tensed. Garza watched without blinking. The rider wore a dark helmet and cargo jacket. He parked near the ditch and stepped off the bike. He walked with a limp. He reached the fence and crouched. He pulled something from his pocket. A small curved tool glinted in the starlight. Cole whispered into his radio. Patrol units drifted closer without lights. The rider worked the fence latch with slow hands. The booby trap alarm tripped. A low click echoed through the wiring. He froze and backed away. Cole stepped out of the shadows. Garza followed. The rider sprinted toward the bike. Cole chased. Gravel kicked up. Garza cut across the ditch. The rider started the engine and accelerated hard. The motorcycle jerked under the loose sand. Tires skidded. Cole closed distance. He tackled the back wheel and shoved the bike sideways. Both hit the dirt. The rider scrambled. Garza reached them and delivered a controlled takedown. The rider hit the ground. Cole grabbed the arm and applied restraints. The rider fought with frantic twists, but fatigue slowed him. Garza pinned his legs. They lifted him to his feet and searched him. In his pockets, they found a short metal hook, a heat tool, adhesive patches, and a small scanner used for wireless signals. They loaded the rider into the patrol truck and drove to the holding room. Barrett arrived with Harlow and military police. The rider remained silent. He refused every question. His helmet bore no markings. His jacket tags were cut out. His wallet held no ID. Barrett told MPs to hold him in isolation and transport him to the regional interrogation unit. He ordered a sweep of the motorcycle. The bike had no license plate. The frame number was scratched off. The paint smelled fresh. The tires looked new. The MPs hauled the rider away. Barrett turned toward Cole and Garza. He asked for every detail of the pursuit. They delivered precise accounts. Barrett nodded once. 3 days later, the regional unit reported back. The rider stayed silent. No name, no statements. Fingerprints did not match any military record. They belonged to a civilian with no criminal history. But his wallet held a single thin microchip. The cyber unit traced it to a warehouse 70 miles away. Barrett requested a search warrant. A joint task force raided the warehouse. They found storage racks, counterfeit uniforms, blank ID cards, and 12 more tracking devices identical to the one from the fence. They found tire tracks matching the motorcycle. They found maps of 3 bases, including Barrett's. Barrett stood beside federal agents as they walked through the warehouse. The air smelled of oil and paper. Boxes stretched to the ceiling. Clipboards listed shipment dates with coded entries. A workbench sat in the corner with wiring tools and solder drops. Whoever ran the warehouse left minutes before the raid. Fresh coffee in a cup. Computer still warm. But the hard drive gone. Cole checked the exit. Tire marks disappeared across cracked asphalt. A quick escape. The agents searched the perimeter. No suspects found. Back on base, Barrett ordered no public statements. He briefed command and tightened security again. Guards scanned every inch of fencing. Trucks patrolled every hour. Drones mapped the outer perimeter. That night, before dawn, Cole walked the barracks hallway. Lights stayed dim. Soldiers slept. Everything felt safe on the surface. But the warehouse changed the stakes. The unknown officer tested the base from inside. The motorcycle rider tested from outside. A larger operation watched them. Cole walked to the motor pool and leaned against the gate. He scanned the tree line without blinking. The base felt different now. Not weak, not scared. But targeted, Garza found him near the gate. She handed him a coffee and stood beside him. No words needed. They knew this story reached beyond their fence. The base stayed ready. The next move rested with whoever watched from the shadows. The warehouse raid changed everything. Barrett reviewed every report twice. He paced the command office with hard steps. He called Regional Command again and requested full intelligence support. The answer came the next morning. A counterintelligence unit would arrive within 48 hours. Until then, the base protected itself. Cole and Garza handled night duty again. Patrols doubled. Gates stayed locked. Dogs circled the fence line. Lawson monitored every camera and every log entry. The base felt alert without panic. Soldiers moved with strict routine. Lights stayed bright. Radios crackled once every few minutes with status reports. By late evening, Garza checked on the holding cells. All empty. The rider now sat in a regional facility. Barrett processed new paperwork every hour. Intelligence agents requested body cam footage, drone footage, entry logs, and warehouse evidence. The base sent everything. Cole sat in the command room with Lawson. Both stared at the screen showing the tree line from multiple angles. Nothing moved. No heat signatures beyond wildlife. Cole leaned back in his chair and rubbed his forehead. His shift dragged with tension. Lawson cleared his throat and said the rider knew too much about the fence layout. Cole nodded. Someone studied the base before any test began. Morning arrived without incident. Cole handed his log to Harlow and walked to his quarters. He crashed on the bed but could not sleep. His mind replayed the details: the tracking device, the motorcycle, the warehouse, and the missing hard drive. Someone planned ahead. Someone wanted information on movement, readiness, and response times. He forced himself to sleep. When he returned for the next shift, the counterintelligence team arrived. 4 agents in plain uniforms entered the command building with briefcases. They asked Barrett for a private meeting. Cole and Garza waited in the hall until the agents requested their presence. Inside, maps of the warehouse and the base covered the table. The lead agent pointed to the tracking device photograph. He explained that similar devices appeared near 2 other installations. In both cases, intruders breached fences, stole access patches, and disappeared. One base lost encrypted tablets. Another lost secure radio parts. The operation was organized, patient, and skilled. The agent handed Cole a sheet. It showed a blurred photo of a person leaving a storage building at another base. Same height and build as the rider. The jacket looked identical. A pattern formed. The agents asked Cole and Garza for every detail of the pursuit and capture. Both provided calm descriptions. The agents asked about the rider's behavior. Cole said the rider displayed confidence, then panic when the bike slid. Garza added that the rider expected a clean escape. The lead agent nodded and said these intruders worked in coordinated pairs. One performed surveillance. One performed collection. The man who posed as the inspector on the first night might not have been legitimate. The clearance card passed scans because it matched the system, but the card could have been stolen. The original inspector did visit the base, but logs showed an early departure. The officer who walked across the gravel might have been an imposter. A heavy silence filled the room. Barrett asked for proof. The agent opened his laptop and displayed timestamps from the gate cameras at another base. A matching vehicle and fake clearance card had been used before. The unknown officer used a method identical to a previous breach. The real inspector at Barrett's base left hours earlier than the recorded time. The imposter used the dead time to walk the grounds. Barrett looked like someone drove a spike through his pride. The first test was not a test. It was a breach. Now the base had a confirmed infiltration, an attempted second breach, and a warehouse full of compromised gear. Barrett leaned against the table and closed his eyes. The agents requested unrestricted perimeter control. They ordered infrared drones every 2 hours. They placed listening sensors along the fence. They told Barrett to expect another attempt. 2 nights later, the attempt arrived. Cole and Garza sat inside the patrol truck under dark sky. The road stretched quiet. Wind moved through the brush. The K-9 unit waited 2 blocks away. Lawson monitored the camera feeds inside the command room. Barrett stayed awake in his office. The sensors picked up a vibration near the far west fence line. Lawson called it out. Cole slammed the truck into gear. Garza braced against the dashboard as the truck rolled across gravel. When they reached the fence, the scene looked empty. Floodlights swept the ground. The ditch lay flat and silent. The tree line held still branches. Cole stepped out and scanned the fence with his flashlight. Nothing. Garza checked the fence posts. She spotted a fresh footprint. Deep heel, narrow shape, small size. Not the rider. Someone lighter. A second intruder. Cole radioed for the K-9 team. The handler arrived with a German shepherd. The dog sniffed the fence and froze. Then it barked once and lunged toward the tree line. The handler released the leash. The dog sprinted into the brush. Garza followed. Cole moved behind her with rifle ready. The dog stopped near a cluster of rocks and barked again. Something moved. Cole saw a figure crouched low, trying to blend with the brush. Garza charged. The figure bolted. Fast and silent. Cole chased. Garza chased. The figure cleared the ditch and sprinted down a slope. Cole pushed harder. Gravel rolled under his boots. The ground dropped quickly. He leaped and landed hard but kept balance. The figure slipped on loose dirt. Cole closed the gap. Garza moved to cut off the escape. The intruder reached a small motorcycle hidden beneath a camouflaged tarp. He pulled the tarp away and tried to start the engine. The key clicked, but the bike did not start. Cole tackled him. Both hit the ground. The intruder punched and clawed at Cole's sleeve. Garza grabbed his arms and pinned them behind his back. Cole snapped the restraints into place. The intruder cursed under his breath. Accent thick. His jacket held cut tags same as the rider. They hauled him to his feet and searched his pockets. They found wireless transmitters, adhesive pads, a heat tool, and another tracking disc. They stuffed him into the patrol truck and drove to the holding room. Barrett waited there with 2 agents. The intruder stared at the floor and refused every question. The agents removed his jacket and searched the seams. Hidden channels lined the fabric. Perfect spots to slide chips and gear. This intruder carried 2 stubby radio antennas and a micro screwdriver taped to his pant leg. Barrett told MPs to process him for transfer. The intruder offered a smile, no fear. He looked like someone convinced his team would rescue him. The agents ignored the smile. Later that morning, the agents moved both captured intruders to a secure federal site. Barrett relaxed for the first time in weeks. Cole and Garza completed mountains of paperwork. Lawson archived every camera file. But the story still had one more turn. At dusk, Barrett received a call. The warehouse owners filed claims of stolen property. The warehouse was leased through a shell corporation. The rider had legal representation. Lawyers argued that their client was attacked without cause. They demanded bodycam footage. They threatened lawsuits. They claimed surveillance equipment belonged to a private tech company with research contracts. Barrett stared at the phone in disbelief. Cole read the report over his shoulder. Garza shook her head with disgust. Every arrest turned into legal chaos. The federal agents stepped in and shut down the legal attempt. They seized the warehouse under National Security Authority. The lawyers backed off fast. 2 weeks passed. The intruders faced stacked charges: theft, possession of military gear, trespassing on protected property, and interference with security systems. The imposter officer remained unidentified. His entry records vanished. His clearance card remained in Barrett's evidence safe. The card belonged to a real inspector who lost his credentials months earlier. A federal team located the original inspector. He retired and moved across state lines. His card never returned to the department. Someone stole it. Someone copied it. Someone passed it through scanners. Barrett received final word from command. The base passed the counterintelligence review. The breaches ended. The operation behind the warehouse collapsed. The captured intruders named no employer, but their equipment held serial numbers traced to a tech theft ring linked to foreign buyers. The base upgraded every access point. New scanners, new patrols, and new alarms. Soldiers took drills seriously. No more routines. No more assumptions. One evening, Cole and Garza walked the fence again. The night air felt calm, not tense. The gravel crunched under their boots. Floodlights stretched across the yard. Both stared across the field beyond the ditch. No shadows, no tires. No headlights. Nothing waited for them. Garza leaned against the fence. Cole stepped beside her. He said the base woke up because of the breach. She nodded. He said they earned respect from command. She nodded again. The story closed without glory or awards. No ceremony followed, no speeches. The base did its job. Cole and Garza returned to patrol. Lawson monitored the screens. Barrett signed reports. The agents moved on to another assignment. Night settled. Radios clicked with short updates. Engines rolled across the lot. Soldiers slept inside warm barracks without fear. The fence stood stronger than before. The base stayed ready for the next threat. A new episode arrives soon. The next story features bodycam footage from a federal checkpoint where a forged badge fooled no one. Want the security guide that explains how professionals spot false credentials? It comes free with the next upload. Stay ready.